Welcome, everybody, to our gnarly data wave today. I'm Mark Shaman. I'm your host and actually one of your speakers today. And today we have a great topic with one of our great partners, moving past Hadoop to a modern data platform with Pure Storage and Dremio, bringing this hybrid Iceberg Lakehouse solution set to the market. And we're going to dive into the and talk about that today. So a little background about myself. My name is Mark Shaman. I've actually been at Dremio a little while now, and I actually deal specifically with our core Dremio solution set, our Dremio Lakehouse for the business, and our partnerships. Before coming to Dremio, I actually worked in cybersecurity for a number of years and focused on delivering privacy, security, and governance components. But for many years, I've been in the analytics space, and I spent almost 18 years at Teradata, and I had numerous roles ranging from dealing with database migration, master data management, open source, and Hadoop, big data, SQL on Hadoop, federated query access, and a number of topics. And I'd love to introduce one of our great partners and our great speakers today, Chad Hendren, and he is the field solution architect for Pure Storage. Chad, why don't you tell people about yourself?
Great, thanks, Mark. So as you said, my name is Chad Hendren. I'm a Pure Storage field solution architect based out of the greater Atlanta area. I primarily work with what we consider to be our commercial accounts throughout the Southeast. Prior to coming to Pure Storage, I spent about 12 years at Oracle in our engineered systems practice and excuse me, took some time from there, went to some big data companies, some data ETL, data governance companies before having the opportunity to come on board here at Pure. I've been here for about 4.5 years and am enjoying everything that Pure is doing. So
Well,
appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
yeah, it's great to have you, Chad, so we can talk about this joint solution set that we're bringing to the market. So what we're going to touch on today is why Dremio and Pure Storage and some of the value proposition that we bring as this joint solution to the marketplace. Then Chad's really going to jump into your Pure Storage overview and the platform overview, give you some insight into that. And then we're going to talk about the path to data lake modernization, especially organizations who are on legacy lake environments and how to move those to a more modern and environment and the benefits associated with that. Then we're going to touch base on the Dremio and Pure Lakehouse solution and this joint solution that we bring to the marketplace. Touch base on the modern hybrid Iceberg Lakehouse specifically and the solution benefits that we bring as this joint solution. And then we'll open it up to questions. So let me turn it over to Chad and to talk about Pure Storage solution for Dremio.
Excellent. I appreciate everybody taking the time out of their day to come out and listen to us talk about, as you said, joint solution with Pure Storage and Dremio for modernizing your data lakehouse. Oop. There we go. So we'll just start by talking high level at the value of the combination of the two companies here. The whole point is to be able, as I said, future-proof your entire stack with open formats for data and robust, performant, evergreen infrastructure from Pure Storage. So if you're one of the people that follows Gartner, you'd know that Gartner consistently recognizes Pure Storage as a leader in the Magic Quadrant for file and object storage platforms, both for completeness of vision and ability to execute. Our evergreen architecture, which we'll talk a lot about today, ensures continuous, non-disruptive upgrades, enabling enterprises to quickly adapt to today's ever-changing environment. Add on top of that, Dremio with their open data lakehouse, providing self-service analytics, data warehouse performance and functionality, and data lake flexibility across all of your data. Dremio exceeds the performance and scale requirements of most demanding customers, largest enterprises out there, including 5 of the top Fortune 10. And then combination of the two enables you to deploy this new infrastructure very quickly, meet your needs now, and know that it will be able to adapt into the future. So one thing that we're seeing for sure is definitely a change in the way data is changing, right? We're seeing massive transformation about the types of data that we're seeing, the velocity of the data, and we haven't seen any of these changes in quite a while. And we can almost liken it back to when we started seeing the move to virtualization, right? We had a new way of supporting the infrastructure, applications, and data. Well, now we're seeing that sort of repeat itself more at the data tier. But this new era of data, the way we're treating data differently, seeing new value from that data is really changing the way we need to support the applications, the experiences, and more. So there's no question the need for change is inevitable. The question is, how fast can we change to remain competitive? And how can we be sure that the changes we make today will work for us in the near future? So with that, we'll say we enter in with the Pure Storage platform. And the way the Pure Storage platform is, it's just a better way to deploy, scale, and manage your data intelligently. We've helped companies reduce their risk by eliminating complexity of long-term storage planning, enabling them to transition to a straightforward, secure service as a platform. So this slide, this isn't architecture, right? This is truly built upon unique capabilities that set Pure Storage apart from the competition. Our capabilities drive everything we do, from our engineering, our support, our services, to provide our customers with a unique experience with storage as a service that simplifies everything: deployment, management, and scalability. So our platform uniquely gives you the ability to consolidate all of your data on a single, easy to manage platform. We boast ultimate reliability. We ensure zero downtime through things like upgrades. We do all of our upgrades, hardware and software, are non-disruptive. We can do them in the middle of the day, whether that's a simple a regular software update, or even doing things as much as changing out controllers from an older version to a newer version, or even from a smaller controller to a larger controller. We can do that in the middle of the day. The reliability of the Pure platform really is astonishing, and I'm amazed every time I sit down in a regular business review with some of our customers, and part of what we report on is uptime. We talk about the maintenance we've done on the system and your system uptime, and more often than not, we're reporting to that system has seen 100% system uptime since it was deployed in that environment, sometimes many years in the past. So many years of 100% service uptime, even through hardware and software upgrades, in some cases, even upgrades between generational platforms there. And we guarantee the platform will evolve without having to do complex rebuys. That's one of the key components that Pure Storage set out to do, was do away with having to do those complex rebuys. And we're doing all this in a way that's cost efficient to your bottom line. We're able to reduce your physical footprint. I'll talk in a few minutes about that. Draw less energy consumption. Because our stuff is designed to just work and be very simple, it saves your workforce a lot of time, saves them time and effort, allowing them to go function, either do things like invest in strategic initiatives, or I'll jokingly say, keep the other guy's equipment running until it hits end of life and you can move over onto Pure. Say that in jest somewhat. But the point is, our storage platform revolutionizes data management, again, providing that unified, reliable, future-proof storage as a solution, or storage as a service solution. So as an engineer, I like to go a little farther in that and talk about the how, not just that we do it, or not just things that sound like they're marketing. So you'll hear a term anytime you look at Pure, talk to Pure, evergreen. Right. It's our business model. It's also our technology architecture. It was designed from the very beginning, as I've already said, to provide a seamless data experience. We don't want your people to have to take downtime for upgrades. We don't want your admins to have to stay in over the weekend to do weekend work to upgrade your existing platforms, things like that. We eliminate those expensive, dangerous, complex rebuys every 3 to 5 years. Our platforms just work. Part of the reason they just work is again, we invest heavily in research and development and designing things that are unique. One of the biggest things that we do is what you see right here is we develop our own flash modules. We've developed these in-house. We build them here in the US, which had a great benefit for us when other people were seeing supply chain challenges in the last couple of years. And because we develop our own flash modules, we're not writing to an interface on an SSD. So what that allows us to do is control literally where we write every 1 and 0 on the system. So we're able to address your data protection, your data resiliency at a full system level, not just looking at each SSD individual. That also, so that provides reliability. These are order of magnitude more reliable than industry standard SSDs. We can drive performance. We drive predictability of your performance, right? Because we're not writing to multiple SSDs that could have different firmware levels from different vendors, et cetera. So it gives us the ability, again, to be reliable, performant, and predictable. It's also part of our ability that we set out to, again, be non-disruptive. So I'd mentioned all of our software can be updated non-disruptively. And for those of you who don't know Pure Storage, we don't license additional features and functionality. When you make the choice to go with Pure Storage, you have your support contract or your agreement with us. And when you have that, everything that is part of that system, you're entitled to have that, not just now, but in perpetuity. So as we release new features, new functionality with our systems, you automatically get that with your next software update. Another example that we've done with that is we recently just gave our customers a significant boost in capacity due to a software update that optimized our erasure coding algorithm on our scale out platform. So we gave our customers bonus storage, right? How many people do that? So I talked about the direct flash modules. We use those in all of our systems, both our scale up platforms that are designed for ultra low latency performance applications, as well as our scale out platform that we'll talk about today that's designed for IO throughput intensive workloads. We use those the same direct flash modules in both. We also use a single operating system across both. So both of our platforms, scale up, scale out, run on a single OS. So that helps not just streamline things like development for new features, support, but as well as it makes it easier for you, the customer, because if you have both of our systems and they look very similar, it's extremely intuitive to figure out how to do functions in one or the other if you're familiar with one. Usually when I work with a customer that's existing on our flash array, which is our scale up platforms, they move to a scale out platform for other workloads. And usually by the time I'm able to log in with them and walk them through how to do things with it, they've honestly already figured it out. And they're already asking me the very minuscule things of, all right, yeah, I got that done. Show me this one little piece here. The development of our own direct flash modules also allows us to drive industry-leading density. This one that I'm holding in my hand is about 18 terabytes. We're currently about to ship a 150 terabyte direct flash module in the same form factor, and we're committed to a 300 terabyte module in the next calendar year. So within our scale out platform, that, if you do the math, gives us 12 petabytes of raw storage in a 5-rack unit enclosure. And oh, by the way, we haven't increased the power draw on all these. So you plan once for that power draw, we're giving you more density in the same space, in the same power envelope. Some other things we've done. I've talked about some technical things, but when we think about managing the Pure Storage, we enable you to manage all of your storage as a single fleet. We send telemetry data up to our what we call Pure One, which is our AI-enabled management system, so you can see all of those. We're actually also deploying a single management console called Fusion that's just part of the operating system. You don't have to install another computer. It's not an extra piece. It's literally within your systems. If you're interested, I highly encourage you to go out and look for Pure Fusion online. And then we do this all. We can do this all with storage as a service. So it allows you to get storage on demand. So I'd mentioned we take out the guesswork of having to plan for multiple years and having to overbuy initially and not using that storage for some time. We allow you to provision what you need now and add to it easily as you go, which you'll see is a great way to help modernize your data lakehouse process. So I've mentioned many times our scale out architecture, which we refer to as our FlashBlade. This is our optimized platform for throughput intensive applications. It allows you to start with a single chassis, 5-rack unit chassis with as few as 7 blades in it. And each of those blades can hold up to 4 of our direct flash modules, but you can start with one direct flash mod per blade. So again, start it very small physically, grow out to 10 blades per chassis, add additional direct flash modules per blade, and then we can scale up to 10 chassis in a full system. Again, this whole scale, even if you start with a single chassis up to 10 chassis, is non-disruptive. And the way we design this, you don't even have to go back to your network team and say, hey, we need new network ports, we need more IP addresses. We can literally use the same network connections to your top of rack switch, to your core switch, however we do it, to your data network without having to go back and request additional resources there. So extremely simple to grow and add. Then as we add each blade, each of these blades contains compute, and it adds IO throughput to it, and it expands your metadata management, which is huge when you start talking about the size of these data sets that we're doing and the workload that you do with those. And just to be clear, when I say it contains compute, that's compute for processing the storage transactions, not to be confused with a hyper-converged infrastructure there. So again, designed specifically for IO intensive workloads. It's multi-protocol. So if you have some steps in your data pipeline process that need NFS, we do a phenomenal job with NFS. We also have extremely high performant S3 as part of the platform. Both of these run natively, by the way. All of these protocols run native on the platform. We don't have, say, a filer with a gateway in front of it or some other derivation similar to that. Everything, all protocols run natively on the platform. And then it's designed for multidimensional performance. So we don't care if it's small files, large files, sequential, random workloads. We handle it all. So again, talking about that protection of your investment, you don't have to plan and architect for a specific workload now, not knowing what your workload will be in the future. And all of a sudden in the future with other platforms, you might not be tuned for that. We de-risk that. There is no risk in doing that. So let's deal into some specifics. I've talked about, how we save space, how we save power. Let's look at an actual comparison for an existing HDFS platform. Many of these points could also transition or translate well to other platforms built on commodity hardware. So what I did is I designed this when I set this up I built this comparison for 1 petabyte of usable storage on HDFS. And for that 1 petabyte of usable storage, what I did was I went out and just configured a 2-rack unit Dell server with 24 1.9 terabyte SSDs in there. It was kind of their middle of the road SSD that was read optimized. So in order to get 1 petabyte usable with HDFS, because it does the 3x replication for data protection, you need at least 3 petabytes of raw storage compared to the Pure Storage FlashBlade, which is only 1.4 petabytes required because we use an optimized erasure coding algorithm, the one I'd mentioned, where we actually made it better with a recent software update. Now, this number for saying you'd need 1.4 petabytes in the Pure Storage FlashBlade does not include our always-on compression. So you might see a 1.2, 1.4, or even greater compression algorithm giving you better than the 1 petabyte usable, depending on your data type. But just for the sake of conversation, we'll leave it here. So in order to get the 3 petabytes raw with the 2-rack unit server, 24 disks in there, you'd need 65 data nodes to achieve that capacity. And then we also need 3 name nodes for the architecture. So for a total of 68 servers, total there would be, assuming 2 data ports and 1 management network port connection, 204 network connections on the commodity hardware platform compared to 5 network connections on the Pure Storage platform. We can scale to more if you need additional, but minimum is 5 for physical redundancy. We talk about simplicity on here and reliability. 1,560 SSDs involved in the legacy system compared to 30 of the direct flash modules in the Pure system. And I'll take a little of my thunder from the right-hand side when we talk about flexible expansion. This is actually a 5-rack unit chassis for the Pure FlashBlade that can hold 40 of those direct flash modules. So we still have the addition to add 10 additional modules in the same chassis without doing anything else with it. We need 136 power ports for the network, for the commodity solution compared to 4 power ports cords for the Pure FlashBlade. When we think about the back of a rack, when you've done work in a data center and you've installed dense systems like this, even with good cable management practices, that still takes up a lot of real estate in the back of the cabinet, right? That blocks a lot of the airflow, which then could cause the fans to have to run longer, run harder to be able to get the necessary airflow to keep your equipment cool. So again, bumping up the power requirements potentially, but also running those fans harder and longer can lead to failure more quickly. The power, take this one with a bit of a grain of salt. What I did was, as I mentioned, I built a configuration with Dell. According to their information, it said that server runs at 1800 watts maximum. I calculated this number at 900. Take this again with a grain of salt, but it does at least give you the a good order of magnitude for the power difference between the two solutions, right? Almost 20x more power required in the solution with a commodity hardware compared to that of the Pure solution. And then when we think just physical space, the commodity solution spills over into 4 racks where the Pure storage occupies 5 rack units in a single rack. So all this combined together brings you massive reduction in total cost of ownership, reduced complexity. I just think about the complexity involved with installing 68 servers, all the operating systems, all the network connections, all the network configurations, managing IP addresses, and then even things like what happens when one fails. And now you have to come back and add something that's 2 generations newer because they're no longer making the exact model you had. Now you have to think about slightly different hardware configurations that gives you different performance. So all sorts of challenges with that. But then also it's increased reliability. The number of moving parts is drastically reduced. And again, we drive additional reliability in these. These are about an order of magnitude more reliable than SSDs in general. So flexible expansion, and it's easy to deploy, to operate, and upgrade. When you think of deploying one of these, I talked again, how long does it take to install 68 servers, get them configured, do all that, and all the things to get it to the point where you're able to put data on that system, compared to FlashBlade, where we had an install that I did a while back over in Alabama. We showed up to start with a customer. We were supposed to start at 9:30. So we got there, did a little talking, how's mom and them? And then we went down to the loading dock to get the pallet with the gear. Can't find it. Somebody had moved it out of their loading dock and put it in an obscure closet somewhere on the other side of the building. It took us quite a while to find it. So by the time we found it, got back, unboxed it, mounted it in the rack, did the installation, got it on the network, started putting data on it, and we were sitting down eating barbecue at 1:30 as the data was moving onto that system. So even with the hiccup of not being able to find the system within their loading dock, we were still able to get the system up and running in time to be at lunch, and they've been happy ever since. So now I've been talking a lot about the value the platform brings, and literally from not just from a simplicity of management capability, but we are talking a little bit about the hardware and how the hardware itself is designed to bring that great user experience to you. We also do other things and recognize opportunities for improvement on things just outside of the hardware in general. And one of those things is looking at a data pipeline and saying, hey, as we're moving data around, it can be challenging when we start looking at millions, billions, potentially even trillions of files. How do we manage this thing? And I highlighted that the FlashBlade is optimized for metadata operations. We specifically designed it so that as it scales out, the metadata management capabilities expand as well. And Pure Storage realized there was an opportunity a long time ago to drive parallelism with the commands, right? We drive throughput and performance in the FlashBlade through parallelism. And they looked at it and they said, you know what? Unix came out in 1969. There probably haven't been any updates at all to the primary tool sets that we use for Linux, right? And we think about the things that if you're bringing a tool set in or bringing in a data set, dropping it into, say, an NFS share, what's the first thing I'm going to do as that administrator, the data owner? I'm going to do an LS. Show me what's in the directory here. Oh wait, I've got to change ownership, change mod on that so that it's my name. It came in as the wrong thing, right? We got to be able to access it. These can be time consuming. I've got a demonstration that I do in my lab where I have a data set that has 6.9 million files in it. It's only about 75 gigabytes, so not huge. And I have a comparison. I can do a standard LS with a standard kernel, just LS command. It takes about 15 minutes to do a recursive list of that file system. I can do it with the Rapid File Toolkit LS in under 30 seconds. Another one we have there is copy. I helped a customer. Um, they were doing a copy job that was taking 2.5 hours to make this copy of 100 gigabytes of data from Louisiana to Texas. And they were doing it using SMB. Now, I mentioned we do multi-protocol. We looked at that and said, you know what? If we do this with multi-protocol, we can optimize this using NFS to move that data where you need it much more quickly to get them the ability to now start operating on that data. So we use the Rapid File Toolkit for that piece. And we're able to change that to copy that data. Instead of it taking 2.5 hours, we got it to take less than 3 minutes to make that move. So drastic changes in just how we move data, how we view the data. And when you think of how many times you would just do an LS on a file system, and if I can make that go 30 times faster, how much time does that save me when you start thinking cumulatively? So this toolkit is open source. You can pull it down and use it on whatever you want. I don't recommend it. It literally has broken other people's storage solutions. But this is just another way that we're enabling you to better do your data operations, your data pipelines, just to get them into that Lakehouse, things that you do to prepare your data. And now, speaking of the thing of data pipelines, some other things that we look at, and challenges that we've seen is that we know this is a process, right? It's we're going through steps through the data curation process here, and what we've historically done is created point solutions for each of these steps, right? In each of these, there are different tools for ingestion, persistence, processing, and so forth. And it's led to a lot of silos and data sprawl. We've seen complexity through having these be systems built with direct attached storage in there internal to the system. So if you need more storage, you end up having to add more compute. If you need more compute, you're adding storage, right? So things grow. You're not able to tune for the exact component you need for that. And then it's complex, right? You're managing all these different environments here. It's adding a lot of different additional servers into your environment, so power, network, all those things. And then the processing takes a lot longer because you're copying data from one silo to the next. And that's where we come in to really simplify that with a single underlying platform that can host that data outside of those applications and provide you a significant amount of simplicity and performance there. And now when we add to that the ability to persist this in Iceberg tables and then have Dremio be able to process that data regardless of where it sits is huge for you. Now, we also talk about deploying these applications. Most of these applications are deployed in containers. And another way that Pure Storage helps deliver value to you and make you more efficient here is through our Portworx product, which essentially brings enterprise features to your containerized environment. Think about being able to bring security. Think about being able to snap and clone an entire environment and move it from whether that's test dev to production or from one cloud to another. Anytime somebody's going to the cloud, I'll ask them, what's your exit strategy, right? Even if they're talking hybrid cloud, but the ability to develop an application in one cloud vendor, be able to snap and clone that to another cloud vendor gives you a massive amount of flexibility in your environment, whether that's to protect from outage on one cloud vendor. I mean, let's be honest, we know it happens at times, right? So if you're running in, let's just say AWS and Azure, and one of them has an outage, you still have running platform. So this is a platform that is agnostic to storage platforms. It runs any Kubernetes service and on any infrastructure as a cloud. So I encourage you to take a look at that if you're doing work with containers. So when we go back to talking about how you consume storage from Pure Storage, again, Evergreen Forever is our business model. Just knowing that you can deploy the hardware once, always upgrade it in place with no planned downtime. We do those. I'd already mentioned we do upgrades, we do growth, we do software updates, all non-disruptive, and you don't have to do data migration. We've this is now the second generation of FlashBlade. I've gone through the process of upgrading many clients from the first generation of FlashBlade to the second generation. And there was one in particular that their application is so business critical to them, they could have zero downtime. And we just recently completed that upgrade for them, and we met that need for them. We went from first generation chassis of platform to the second generation of chassis. No data migration, no changes to their applications. They never saw a hiccup with it. So it was definitely something that we took a great deal of pride in. So when we talk about multi-generational lifespan, that's exactly what we mean. And even with your support contract, uh, even within the same chassis, we keep you on current hardware. If you choose to go with our Evergreen Forever, which is a traditional capital expenditure, CapEx purchase, you own the hardware. Every time when you renew your multi-year support contract, we'll get you the most current hardware for that there. So we protect your investment with Pure. Now, one other way you hear me talk about being able, you've heard me, I think, say you can start small and grow. You can obviously do that with a capital expenditure. I'd mentioned you can purchase it with 7 blades with as few as 1 direct flash module per blade. You can add blades, you can add direct flash modules, you can add chassis. An even easier way to do it that many of our customers are seeing a great deal of value in is our Evergreen One, which is our storage subscription model. It allows you, just think cloud operating model. So you would literally subscribe to a capacity and a performance SLA. Pure comes in, installs the equipment in your data center, your colo. We can even do it in other data centers where you may not even have a presence, right? We can work with you there and install what you need today. And you'll see as we talk in the next few steps of how we would take the path to get to a modern data lake, that could be really important for you, right? You come in, my project dictates that I can't move everything all at once. I know I'm not going to throw a switch and just move to a brand new infrastructure. So let's say, hey, we can move this project first. And as you move it over, you buy the storage that you need. You subscribe to that storage, the SLA that you need for that amount. As you grow, as you say, okay, we're on to phase 2, we grow this next piece, simply pick up the phone, call Pure, or even go online to that Pure One that I'd mentioned and be able to add additional storage to that. We grow the system for you. You literally just increase what we call increase your commit. So it's that simple. So you're not subscribing to storage you don't need. You're not buying hardware that you don't need. You're literally getting the performance, the storage capacity that you need when you need it, and not having to pay for any upfront or additional overhead for it. So what does it look like? We talked about being able to get to a more modern platform. How do we transition to that? All right. So we look at it as kind of a multi-phase piece here, where the first piece is modernize your data lake query engine, right? Get into a higher performance platform that can bridge the gap between your legacy environment and FlashBlade to enable that seamless transition. So we get the data processing out of these legacy data processing applications like Hive, like Apala and Apache Drill, and move over to a single solution, very performant with Dremio. The second piece of that is once you now have your query engine in place, you can start migrating that HDFS data, the data that's stored in HDFS, over to object storage on Pure Storage. That's going to boost your performance drastically. Again, simplify your underlying hardware for that. So lots of industry standard tools to help you to make that transition there. And then the third step for that is create your open data lakehouse by moving off of the Hive into Iceberg. So being able to have that modern open data lakehouse now built on performance storage that grows with you and guarantees success into the future. So just to summarize then briefly, so with Pure Storage for this infrastructure, you know that you're making an investment in your future, right? You can start it small and grow. We talked about start with exactly what you need now, grow it as your project dictates and allows you to move that data over. We'll drive that high throughput. This again is designed for massive IO throughput to enable faster results, right? How much value does it deliver if you can get those results to your business unit, to the people that rely on that data much more quickly? And we give you the flexibility both in growth, but also in things like multi-protocol we talked about and multi-dimensional performance. So you're not sizing and you're not planning for things like specific IO workloads. It handles both equally well. And we know it'll be a long-term investment for you because your platforms will never go EOL. Um, I hope you understand how, I hope this helps you understand how Pure can help lay the foundation to get you to a modern data lakehouse next generation for better performance, better manageability. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mark so he can talk about all the interesting things that happen up stack at that Dremio layer.
Thanks, Chad. So as Chad was just talking about, awesome storage platform underneath that we leverage for this joint hybrid Iceberg Lakehouse solution. And Dremio, we actually bring three main capabilities in the Dremio platform to the market. One being unified analytics, second being SQL Query Engine, and the third being Lakehouse management. And unified analytics is really our ability to enable organizations to have that single pane of glass, that single view of the data that exists within their environment. So we have a very robust semantic layer. And in that semantic layer, there can be representations of tables that exist within the Lakehouse platform in those Iceberg tables, as well as data that exists in other platforms. So it can be data that exists in Oracle, SQL Server, and DB2. We also have federated query capability. So as a user going in, it could be an AI user, a data scientist, or a business analyst. They see in that semantic layer all these tables that exist within the environment. And those tables can be representations of tables that exist in the platform or tables that exist in Oracle or DB2, SQL Server, et cetera, and be able to dynamically execute queries that can join that data from one platform to the another. So it really is an awesome ability for organizations to enable self-service to access data that exists within the flash storage in the Lakehouse, as well as data that exists in other platforms, and really enable self-service as well as have robust governance and security on top of that as well. The second component is our SQL Query Engine. It is a high-speed query engine that enables data warehousing workloads on top of the data lake. And it's built on top of Apache Arrow, and it really brings that best price performance for a query engine on top of a data lake. And it has a key component of it, what we call reflections, that really is a unique capability to accelerate queries within the data lake environment. And what it is it's optimized relational cache. You can also think of a materialization that can be a representation of a single table or multiple tables, such as a join process. And the great thing about it is these reflections, as an end user or a business user or business analyst, when you're coming in to actually execute a query, you don't actually even have to know that that reflection exists. So if as a user, I'm executing a query, the optimizer within the system is smart enough to know that that reflection exists and it will accelerate my query. It dynamically does query rewrite, rewrites that query to take advantage of that reflection and speeds up that query processing, really enabling sub-second query response times on data that exists within the data lake, as well as data that might exist in other platforms. So for example, I can have a join of a table that maybe is an Oracle table, as well as Iceberg tables that exist within the data lake. And that materialization can be a reflection, so I can get sub-second response times onto that. One of the other great things about reflections is we've built in automated capabilities to update and keep those reflections refreshed. So for example, if the base table is updated, then automatically that reflection is refreshed as well. So it's an awesome capability to really accelerate the overall performance of querying and analytics within a Lakehouse environment. The third capability we call Lakehouse management, which is tied to our enterprise catalog for Apache Iceberg. And what it is a modern data catalog that manages all the metadata around the data lake environment. It also has unique capabilities that enable data governance and access controls on the data that exists within the data lake, as well as this unique capability called Git for Data. And what Git for Data enables you to do is actually create branches of data just like you would Git in developing code. And it's awesome because what it does is it actually doesn't duplicate the data. It actually uses metadata pointers to enable you to create zero copy clones of data. So I can actually create a clone of data let's say a table. I can add columns to that table. I can do experimentation. I can give access to people to share that data, and it won't impact my production environment. I actually have the ability to create those multiple branches. Let's say I am a data scientist. I can do testing on those multiple branches and not impact that production environment. I can do time travel, and it's fully integrated and takes advantage of all those capabilities that exist within Iceberg table format, that open table format. So one of our goals at Dremio is to take full advantage of Iceberg, and we've been all in for Iceberg for a long period of time. As part of this joint hybrid Iceberg Lakehouse solution, as I mentioned earlier, a key component of that is leveraging object storage. And that object storage and this go-to-market solution that I've been talking about, Chad's been talking about, is this awesome flash-based storage capability with all those great capabilities that Chad talked about within his solution set. So this joint solution that Pure Storage and Dremio have been going to market with is a hybrid Iceberg Lakehouse. And at an analytics level, that level above that we've been talking about, Chad talked about all those great benefits that the underlying storage subsystem brings to the marketplace. And then at the analytics level, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we have huge benefits that organizations can see, such as that enterprise catalog for Apache Iceberg that allows that holistic management of that data within the Lakehouse, really decreasing the complexity of that environment and really enabling organizations to get quicker time to value and time to insight. One of the huge advantages of this solution set is it is a hybrid solution. So it can be deployed on-prem or in the cloud. Or if you deploy on-prem, let's say your data gravity is on-prem, where you want to continue to have your data deploy on-prem, leveraging that solution set. And then with our unified analytics and our unified access capability, you can still connect to other sources that exist within a cloud environment. So that's a unique capability for this joint solution. It is really a true hybrid solution, unlike other solutions that are in the marketplace that are cloud only. And it really enables organizations to analytically to access all their data that exists within their environment and really get that time to insight, as I talked about earlier, but also enabling self-service, especially when Chad talked about the complexities organizations see with their existing Hadoop environments. And one of the key things we hear a lot of the times in these Hadoop environments is, it's really difficult to enable self-service. There's a lot of complexity in that environment. With this joint solution set, we're really enabling organizations to enable their users to get closer to the data and really leverage that self-service capabilities that we bring to the market and really get that time to insight and that analytical performance that they need. And then, of course, one of the key components, as Chad talked about as well, with this joint solution, both on the Dremio side as well on the Pure Storage side, is really decreasing a lot of that data movement. Organizations don't have to move that data into their data lake environment, into that lakehouse environment, and then move it into a proprietary data warehousing platform for analysis, and then move it as well into data extracts, really decreasing a lot of that data movement and decreasing the complexity in that environment, really decreases the overall total cost of ownership of an analytical environment. So there's a huge benefit to organizations, not just ones that are in a legacy Hadoop environment, but just in general, their analytical environment of leveraging this joint hybrid Iceberg Lakehouse solution set from both Dremio and Pure. So why use Pure Storage and Dremio? Number of benefits that organizations see. Queries are faster and moving, especially from those legacy environments, and especially as Chad talked about, the performance capabilities that the underlying storage platform brings. Self-service is easier. That unified semantic layer that I talked about in the intuitive user interface, really enabling organizations to access data that exists both on-prem as well as in their cloud environment. And as I mentioned earlier, less work for your data teams. Chad talked about how there's a lot of complexity organizations will face with commoditized hardware within their environments, and how just at the storage subsystem level, there's a huge benefit in decreasing the complexity of that environment. and the number of moving pieces. And that's the same at the Dremio level as well. No need to continually move data, no need to create those BI extracts, as well as, can connect to those easily connect to numerous data sources. Organizations can, connect to those sources and access that data seamlessly. And, that overall lower costs when it comes to lower compute and storage costs that we talked about, really improving the overall performance on the data lake, both from just the high performance of the query engine, the reflection capability for accelerating queries that we bring to the market, as well as what Chad talked about and the overall lower compute and storage costs, and that investment in the future that you're having, really protecting your initial investment and not having to always swap out storage and do multiple generations, really enabling organizations to more fluidly grow as they need to within their environment. So what we see is there's huge advantages that customers have seen with our joint solution set. This aspect of best in class total cost of ownership, greater than 50%, reduced analytic total cost of ownership in a year from some of our customers. That best price performance when it comes to a Lakehouse platform, 9x improvement in performance over the competitors, fastest query performance, 10x plus, really accelerating, especially organizations that are on legacy Hadoop environments, moving from those legacy Hadoop environments to a new modern Lakehouse based on Pure and Dremio, huge performance gains. And of course, just simplifying the overall environment, decreasing a lot of those data pipelines and the complexity that exists within that environment. Just 75, we had a customer 75% plus improvement in ETL savings in customer in 1 year, being able to decrease a lot of that complexity within their environment. So there's a huge advantage that organizations can see in leveraging this joint hybrid Iceberg Lakehouse solution set that Dremio and Pure Storage bring to the marketplace. So I wanted to say that we thank you so much for attending. We have some more great information that you can actually look up on this joint solution set. We have a hybrid Iceberg Lakehouse solution page here. You can find the URL here. We have our Pure partner page where you can find tons of good information around the joint solution that we're bringing to the market, as well as the benefits of that solution set, as well as we have an overall solution brief that talks about the joint solution that we bring to the market as well. So now we'd actually like to open it up for questions. Any questions?
So there is one question that popped up in the chat. It says, any reason not to simply use AWS S3 for the data lake versus the Pure FlashBlade? So as the Pure person, I'll say, for the Pure Storage one, you would own the storage, whether it's, I say own, I put that in parentheses, whether that's a CapEx or you're using it as a cloud operating model from Pure Storage, where that gives you predictable cost and performance. You don't have any, you wouldn't be paying any sort of egress fees for your data, for example. Another piece is obviously security, right? Your data would be in your data center. It also gives you data locality if you're working with applications within your data center, could help that way. And if you choose to use compute in the cloud, you can always do cloud adjacent, as Mark had showed in some of his slides. That would give you the flexibility then to have a multi-cloud environment. So if you can go cloud adjacent, you wouldn't necessarily be locked into a single cloud vendor. So that gives you the flexibility of choosing your cloud vendor of choice. Or if you got to a point where you decided to bring things back on-prem, at the compute tier, for example, your data is already in a device that's accessible to your data on-prem.
Max, are there any other questions?
One of the questions was, another question is, what's the port speed? So I assume you're meeting the IO, excuse me, connection uplinks for that. So the FlashBlade can connect at 100, 40, 25, or 10 gigabits per second. Excuse me, natively out of the chassis. Actually, in our multi-chassis, actually can go up to 400 gigabits per second, which we're doing in a solution we just announced yesterday. So yeah, we have options. And then I mentioned that it's a minimum of 4 cables up there. We can do multiple connections up there. So we have on the single chassis FlashBlade 8 ports available at today, let's say 100 gig for your uplink. So give you 800 gigabits per second IO throughput on the total for the chassis. So excuse me. I know we saw a question if you'd be interested in seeing that. My information obviously was available at the beginning of this presentation. This will be available online. You can pull it back up from there. And I'd love the opportunity to talk to you anymore if you'd like to drill into this solution from a pure storage side. And obviously, I know the Dremio team feels the same. So
Okay, no more questions? Great. Well, thank you everybody for attending our gnarly data wave today, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
thank you, everyone.